I'm Rachel Bell, and this is Your Last Meal, the show where celebrities share stories about the foods they love most, and we dig into the history, culture, or science of those meals with experts from around the world. Today on the program, singer, songwriter, and guitarist M. Ward.
What do you do with the pieces of a broken heart? And how can a man like me remain in the light?
Ward is also half of the Grammy-nominated duo She and Him, the she being Zooey Deschanel. And he's in the supergroup Monsters of Folk, with members of My Morning Jacket and Bright Eyes. I have been a fan of M. Ward's music and She and Him for a very long time. Have you ever heard of a UNESCO City of Gastronomy? We only have 2 in the United States, and I chat with one of the cities in question about what this designation means and what makes that city's food scene so special. But first, my conversation with M. Ward.
And if life is really as short as they say, then why is the night so long? And then the sun went down and he played for me this song.
Hello, hello.
Hello, how are you?
I'm not bad. How are you?
I want to go back to your 2020 album, Migration Stories, because immigration is such a big topic and issue right now in our country. Can you share your grandpa's immigration story and then also what motivated you to learn more about it just 5 years ago?
Yes. Both my grandparents on my mother's side were born in Mexico. My grandfather purchased a very, very cheap green card to cross over the border into Texas a little over 100 years ago.
And it was $5, right, to get in?
Yes, that's what the rumor is, and that allowed him to work all over Texas, Colorado, and eventually Los Angeles, where my mom was born, and eventually I was born. During the first, I don't even like to say his name, but during the first Trump administration, it was very obvious that individuals like my grandfather were and are being targeted as the enemy. And that feeling turned into this record, Migration Stories.
Do you have any connection to the food from the region that your family is from in Mexico?
Growing up, in the Mexican food that I remember the most is more the Los Angeles version of Mexican food, the kind of foods that were in my family and my grandparents' family, which is in general very simple, but isn't simple the best.
Yeah, what did you grow up eating at home as far as like Mexican food?
When I went to my grandparents' house, I remember always the smell of fresh corn tortillas and different soups and stews. And there was always some interesting smell, aroma coming from the kitchen. And I was so young, but you can still smell it as if it was yesterday. And so trying to recreate those things in your own home as an adult is actually quite simple. There's a musical component to that I've been kind of chasing for many records. It comes down to chasing a sound that really changed your life when you were younger. For me, it was especially listening to the radio and the way that radio felt and the way that it seemed to be connected to the universe, coming from this mythical place that I didn't understand because I was a kid and I did not know how radio worked. So
I still don't know how the radio works.
It's best not to know. Some things are best not to know, I think. But I think it's similar with food. It can connect you to past generations, right?
I think you're the first person I've ever heard say that it was easy to recreate recipes, from past generations, because all I ever hear is people saying either I never got the recipe or I tried to get it. And, older people, especially immigrants, never write anything down and they don't want to give measurements. And they just say, you just put it in, you do a pinch. And it's so hard to get that flavor.
That's a really good point. And I think if I grew up maybe in a household that did more complex things, that it would be harder. But my favorite foods have always been the ones that have a few ingredients. When I'm looking at recipes and there's like I'd probably draw the line at like 10 ingredients. I just too long didn't read. And my skills are not great for cooking at all. So
So, what are a couple of the things that you do make at home well? Things, anything or things, from your Mexican heritage?
it's mainly comes from things that my mom made, which is very simple: beans, soups, stews, tortillas, and really simple pastas. I love being able to go to live here in Portland most of the time, also Los Angeles sometimes, but Portland is we're very lucky to have great farmers markets, which is right down the street from you. Every day of the week, there's a different one in the city that you can get to that's pretty close. Just getting exposed to what's fresh and is usually the thing that dictates what we should eat. Making salads, nothing fancy. I don't have any great recipes to report other than finding what's great at the farmers market, and suddenly you're connected to the community in this really great way and supporting these farms. And yeah, I'm definitely a food enthusiast, but I'm not the kind of person that can offer up great recipes or tips other than finding what's local, which is definitely nothing new or novel to people that are listening to your podcast. But I'm lucky to live in a city that has such easy access to things that are very freshly made from the farms in Oregon and Washington.
I think
Great.
that farmers market at PSU is my favorite in the whole country. Like beyond just the produce, like the stands of the prepared foods that they have there, it's so good and like so diverse.
It's a great kind of food party that happens at 9 o'clock in the morning every weekend. And it's very lucky to live in Portland. And I have found that the best thing to do is to buy the fresh thing. And then how can you mess up a fresh, ripe tomato with basil or something like that?
I didn't think about it until this moment because I feel like there's so many Americans that don't like vegetables. And I just realized like maybe that's why, because so many of our vegetables are out of season and don't have very much flavor. And I actually interviewed Regina Spektor this morning, and she was talking about that growing up in Russia and coming to the States and nothing having any flavor to her. And like, just like you were saying, traveling abroad and saying, oh, this is a tomato again. Like this is what a cucumber tastes like.
Yes. Supermarkets, I think, spend a lot of time thinking about how can we get this to the consumer, whether or not it's ripe, right? Mm-hmm. And I think the best musical analogy would be hearing Christmas music in October or early November. It's the same as buying a peach at the grocery store in May and realizing that you've been duped. Certain things when they're not ripe, right?
I like that reference, and I suddenly have Last Christmas by Wham in my head. Thank you very much.
And I love that song, but not in October. Not in October
or in June.
Or summer, yes.
When we come back, M. Ward reveals his last meal, and I chat with someone from the first city in the U.S. to be designated a UNESCO City of Gastronomy, a place that I visited for the first time earlier this year. Let's get to the big question of the show. What would your last meal be?
It would probably be the chili relleno. A chili relleno that I first had in Tucson, Arizona. A vegetarian chili relleno.
And from where?
There's a place called The Little One, which is in downtown Tucson. It used to be called Poca Cosa. And there's seriously probably just a few ingredients. I remember asking her for the recipe once and she wouldn't give it to me because I think it's secret and it comes from Mexico. Yeah. If I was on death row, that's what I would ask.
And anything with it? Do you want anything else on the plate, dessert, something to drink?
They do really good agua frescas, probably something like that.
Have you had a chili relleno burrito?
I have in LA. Very good.
So into those.
It's comfort food, right? Yeah.
Yeah. I will say making chili rellenos is a mess. So you might just want someone else to make it for you.
I've never tried to make a chili relleno. I feel like I would royally screw it up and it ruin myself from enjoying it at a restaurant. So I'm very appreciative of people who can take on the task, because I know it's not easy and it involves a lot of steps, a lot of roasting and finding the right peppers and stuff. Right?
And it's like the dipping in the batter and like it just starts getting everywhere and getting it to the pan. Yeah. For his last meal, M. Ward wants chili rellenos from The Little One in Tucson, Arizona, a restaurant that unfortunately closed in September of last year after exactly 40 years in business. But I was able to find a menu online, and their chili rellenos were made with Anaheim chilies, stuffed with Monterey Jack cheese, lightly egg battered and fried, and topped with a mild tomato-based salsa ranchera. Tucson seems like such an amazing food city. Have you found that with Mexican food?
Yes, I would be happy to give an advertisement for food in Tucson. If you like Mexican food, there's a lot of really great restaurants that specialize in Mexican food that is different from anywhere that you've tried, similar to New Mexico. And it's a good reason to get on an airplane and create a holiday.
A few months ago, I did hop on an airplane and created a holiday in Tucson. I was trying to escape the gray, dreary Seattle winter, and when I visited at the end of January, it was sunny with clear blue skies and highs in the 70s. I came to Tucson for the first time in January, and I came for two reasons. Number one, to go hiking in Saguaro National Park, but number two, to eat. Part of that was learning that it was a UNESCO City of Gastronomy, but I don't actually know what that means. So what is a UNESCO City of Gastronomy? Before I introduce my guest and let him answer my question, I'm going to interrupt myself to say that Tucson is one of only 2 U.S. cities designated as UNESCO Cities of Gastronomy. The other is San Antonio, Texas.
People say, you're a city of gastronomy, a UNESCO City of Gastronomy. You must have the best restaurants in the world. Well, we have good restaurants here, for sure. We have really good restaurants here, but that's not what they're looking for.
That's Chef Janos Wilder, chair of the board of the Tucson City of Gastronomy for UNESCO.
They're looking for what makes you unique. What are those qualities that no other place in the world has? And what sets us aside, what makes us unique, is a 5,000-year gastronomic history. For 5,000 years, and I'm talking about less than a quarter of a mile from where I'm sitting right now in downtown Tucson, along the banks of the Santa Cruz River, is the longest continuously cultivated region in North America. This little rivulet, we're almost the only place that almost every year people could come and plant and cultivate and harvest their foods.
Tucson is obviously a desert. It's dry and hot.
The natives who inhabited this land were brilliant. They were great, great farmers. Pascua Yaqui tribe and then Tahano Ohoto. Those are the ones right in this particular area. They learned how to water harvest. They learned how to irrigate. They learned how to save water. And most importantly, they learned how to find nutritious plants to grow that were very low water usage. Those would be cholla buds from the cholla cactus, which is coming into bloom in the last week or so, and it will last for the next couple of weeks. The flowers from the ocotillos could be used. Dandelion greens would be growing here. Lamb's quarter. Verdolagus also goes by the name purslane. Beans like the tepary bean, which has a lot of different varieties, but they require very, very little water to grow. Epazote, yucca flowers from some of the cactus. You could pull out the meat from the cactus, things of that nature. As time goes on, we become washed over by, in quotes, civilizations, right?
So European colonization.
Your European colonization, exactly. They bring with them all sorts of fruit trees here. They brought flour here, which was really sort of an interesting story. There was never flour. There was corn here.
Bringing wheat over.
Yeah. And it was a particular type of wheat called Sonoran white wheat, They brought wheat for a single reason. They were missionaries. They needed catechism wafers or communion wafers. So they needed flour to make. And then meats as well, cattle and lamb. And we've always had quail. We've always had javelina. But now these are the domesticated animals. So we're known for a lot of certain things. And some of those were the more recently acquired foodstuffs. So today, the food culture is made up of those ancient sorts of things and then those more 500-year-old.
I came with this idea of like, what do I need to eat? What is so special here? What is something important that I want to eat? What would be the answer to that? Where would you send people? What kind of ingredients, dishes, restaurants, places would you send people to experience this?
I want to ask you a question. What did you find? Where did you go? What did you think?
So I have had El Charro on the show in the past because we did an episode about chimichangas. So I went there because I wanted to visit a place that I'd interviewed and had on the show before. And I loved that history. The burrito fell into the oil and the chimichanga was born. I loved the idea that it is the longest running Mexican restaurant in the country.
So you went to the original downtown?
I went to the original.
Yeah, good.
Yeah. I ate Mexican food only while I was there. I love Sonoran style Mexican food and I love the tortillas. I'll send you a picture when we're done here of how packed my suitcase was with tortillas from Tortillas Brian.
So you were clued into really one of the great places for tortillas. Yeah.
I did a lot of research. My favorite thing that I ate all weekend was a simple $5 bean and cheese burrito from St. Mary's. It was amazing. I wish I had time to go back and just eat so many more.
And to have time to wait in line for it.
I didn't have to wait that long, luckily.
I need to go with you.
Okay. Is there usually a long line?
Yeah, there is.
I think I waited like 10 minutes. Tucson is located about 150 miles from the state of Sonora in Mexico, and it was actually a part of Sonora for about 30 years in the 1800s. Between being colonized by the Spanish and becoming a part of the United States as a part of the Gadsden Purchase in 1853. One of the foods I was really excited to try that I had twice because I loved it so much was the Sonoran dog, the hot dog.
Yeah. So the Sonoran hot dog is from Hermosillo, made its arrival here. And I'm trying to think, it was probably the early 90s or something like that. And it was sort of late night bar food, right? But it's a unique sort of hot dog. It's a small hot dog, and it's wrapped in bacon. And it's generally cooked on a griddle. And then with these really fluffy hot dog buns. I mean, the hot dog buns may be the best part of it, right? They're just so fluffy. So I put beans, usually pinto beans, underneath, and then put that hot dog on top of that. And then every place has its different garnishes. Some will have garnish bars with onions or cheese or any sorts of stuff you can put on top of those. You see lots of dogueros around with little tiny carts. You see trailers on the side of the road. Pretty much all around town, you can't go a few blocks without finding a doguero of some sort and getting a Sonoran hot dog. And that really has become a specialty.
And where did this come from? Did this come from Sonora?
Yes, Sonora.
Yano says most of the food Tucson is known for now is not the native foods from 5,000 years ago. But you can find things like prickly pear ice cream when the fruit is in season. And at his spot, Studio Llanos, a reservation-only private supper club of sorts, where he focuses on cooking with lots of local ingredients to celebrate the bounty of the region.
One of the courses on one of my menus is, it's kind of a simple taco, but it's not so simple. I use the sea bass from the Sea of Cortez, which comes into me just absolutely pristine, on blue corn tortillas, which I make a special type of local black bean, refritos, and salsa matcha, and lemon, and then caramelized pineapple. And I take nopalitos, the cactus pads, and I slice them super, super, super thin. You could almost read through them. And that taco is like the best taco you ever had in your life. But it's unlike any other taco. Or I'll take quail and marinate the quail and then smoke the quail, make a barbecue sauce for it as well, and then stuff it with chipotle molasses sweet potatoes, which are sweet and hot and savory, and serve it on a mole verde. So it's a very herbaceous and vegetable-driven mole In the fall, we have pomegranates, so I'll garnish that with pomegranates and all sorts of other little pieces that tell the story of where they are.
Okay, back to the UNESCO City of Gastronomy designation. It's something Tucson applied for. They had to submit a lot of paperwork about the city's rich culinary history, and only 56 cities around the world hold the title, from Arequipa, Peru to Zaleh, Lebanon. There's only 2 cities in the United States that have this designation. Why do we have so few?
Any answer that I give you is speculation. But first of all, during the first Trump administration, we got out of UNESCO.
Oh.
So we dropped our membership of UNESCO. They continue to honor our designation, and we continue to work internationally with UNESCO. So I'd say that's a big reason.
There is a dessert M. Ward loves so much, he started a blog about it with a friend. That's coming up after the break. Let's go back about a decade to something that I dug up on the internet. Tell me about the creme brulee.
Yeah, that was a joke that Jim and I had, that we were going to start a webpage that just reviewed creme brulees. I think
And this is Jim from My Morning Jacket.
Yes, we were making the first Monsters of Folk record in Omaha, Nebraska, and I think they brought out an incredible creme brulee, and we started talking about creme brulees that we'd had in the past, and it never really came to fruition. I think Jim ran with it a little bit and might have gotten the domain, but some things are better left to the imagination.
I'm pretty sure there was a real blog. I looked it up. It doesn't exist anymore.
Okay.
Yeah. I'm curious, what do you think makes a perfect creme brulee? Because I don't know if I've noticed that much of a difference between them, but maybe I haven't eaten as many as you. I feel like as long as it crackles on top and it's creamy underneath, they're generally really good.
Yes. The ones in Europe, not to sound too sophisticated here, but yeah, the ones in France are the best because they seem to have the best ingredients. But yeah, you definitely there needs to be an audible moment of pleasure, right? When you're cracking the surface, and it just takes the right culinary torch. Was that the right word?
Yeah.
But no, I've never made one. I don't have any ingredients to impart. Jim and I should probably think about restarting that.
Probably. I think you should get a culinary torch, because when you were talking about, only wanting to make things with a few ingredients, it reminds me of one of my best friends, and he has the same policy, yet once a year he will make creme brulee, which just seems like, really? It's like so out of what he normally does. Yeah. And it's actually very easy. And it's so fun. And we just let everybody torch their own tops. And just that experience of cracking, like, I think it really puts you in the moment because you're involved in the eating. You're not just kind of like horking it into your face.
Right. So you're inspiring me to get it on a culinary torch. I like that idea. There's a lot of things you can torch and it tastes better, right?
Yeah. Yeah. You could do raw tuna. You could get fancy.
Yeah. Torched. Yeah. It's, you have me thinking.
We just had our annual creme brulee last weekend for Passover. Torching that sugar on top with a little blowtorch until it is brown and crackly never gets old. Is it true that you still start all of your recordings on a tape recorder you've had since you were a teenager?
Yes. It's called a 4-track, and I bought it for about $100, maybe $200 in high school. And it was a really, really big purchase for me. I remember saving up for it. And you would think that when technology advances, that these old devices would just sound crappier, but it's the opposite. I mean, I think it's the same thing is true in the world of furniture, right? Like, so many things are made in a disposable spirit. But if you go back just a little bit of time, maybe a century, things were built to last. And I think that has been my experience with a lot of musical gear and just a lot of things in life, right? I don't think I'm saying anything too novel here, but long story short, yeah, if you find a piece of gear that you love, you kind of hang on to it forever. and it's part of my writing process. Is this old piece of gear that I've had lying around the house since high school.
Turns out it was a better investment than you thought it would be, like saving up, and it was this big purchase. And, if you like broke it down over the days or years, pennies on the dollar.
Exactly. And yeah, you could spend 10, 20 times that amount and end up with something that's basically confounding, like this does too many things, or, it does this one really specific thing really well. But what I'm looking for is something that does the big picture really well. And I know this sounds like an advertisement for 4-tracks, but I love it.
You became a vegetarian. You could tell me when, I'm not sure exactly, like maybe in the last several years. And you posted on Facebook asking people why they decided to give up meat. So I'm curious for you, what prompted you to become a vegetarian?
It's mainly a feeling that you get after eating vegetarian meals. It's a certain feeling of connectedness that I don't feel like I ever got growing up eating meat. I'm definitely not somebody who loves, standing on a soapbox and trying to change people's dogmas. I think people need to figure these things out on their own. That seems to be the biggest change maker, I think, is when people discover things on their own. The best thing is to just live by example. And that's basically what I do. When I'm in countries like Spain, it's harder to be strictly vegetarian. I'll sometimes stray, but in general, I would say 95% of my things I put in my stomach are from fruits and vegetables. And following the vegetarian diet, there was a long time where I thought it would be very boring and very flavorless to be a vegetarian or a vegan. And just with a very little bit of experience, especially in this time frame in the 2020s, it's so easy to find vegetarian, vegan food, especially in America. And the more you go down that road, the more you realize how many restaurants are taking shortcuts to flavor, which just means adding, I think, pork lard or add bacon. I think it's much more creative. It's much more interesting when chefs don't rely on the obvious things of adding flavor. So those are the things that inspire me a lot when I'm traveling and getting recommendations from friends to visit this vegetarian restaurant here and there. I'm hooked.
And that was M. Ward's last meal. M. Ward just released a new single on Spotify in March. It's called Sympathy for the Stones. He also has about a dozen other albums, so plenty for you to listen to. Thanks to Janos Wilder, chair of the board of the Tucson City of Gastronomy for UNESCO and chef owner of Studio Janos. Your Last Meal is a product of Seattle's Cascade PBS. Go to cascadepbs.org to become a member. And for as little as $7 a month, you get on-demand access to all PBS programming, including dozens and dozens of food shows, old favorites like Julia Child and Jacques Pepin, and newer shows like mine. It's called The Nosh. If you like this show, and I'm guessing you do because you made it all the way to the end credits, please rate and review in your preferred podcast app. It's a free and easy way to support the show. This episode was produced by me and senior producer Sarah Bernard, who also mixed and mastered it. Original theme music by Prom Queen. I'm Rachel Bell, and this is Your Last Meal. Sounds familiar.
I have to pull something out of the oven real quick. Hold on, okay?
Okay. Is it a bun?
What?
A bun?
What did
a
you
bun
say?
Is it a bun in the oven?
No, it's caramelized pineapple.
Ooh.